Now, some equations have fractions, but they also have where you have to use the distributive property in order to solve for the variable. So before you distribute, you want to multiply both sides of the equation by the least common denominator, or LCD, of both sides to eliminate that fraction. So when you're doing the distributive property, you only have to multiply with the whole number, or an integer. So that would become more like all the equations we've been solving in the past. So for this example, we have 3/5 times the quantity -3 plus 3x equals 72/5. So instead of distributing the 3/5 automatically, you can multiply by the least common denominator of both sides of the fractions. In this case, it's the 5 for both, because both denominators is 5. The LCD is 5. So you just multiply both sides by 5. And when you do that, that makes the denominator, it cancels out with the denominator because 5 over 5 is 1. So you're left with the numerators. You have 3 times the quantity of -3 plus 3x equals then 72. Notice when we multiplied by the LCD, nothing inside the parentheses changed. It was only that fraction on the outside. So now I can distribute the 3 like I've done in the past with no problem. So that'll be 3 times -3 is -9, and then 3 times 3x is 9x. So that'll be -9 plus 9x equals 72. We'll then add 9 to both sides. That gives us 9x equals 81. And then if you divide both sides by 9, that gives you the solution of x equals 9. So again, when distributing fractions, you actually don't want to distribute the fraction. You want to multiply by that LCD to get rid of the fraction, and then you can multiply with an integer. So here's another example. We have solved the equation 4/7 times the quantity of x plus 9 equals 2/3. So we don't want to just distribute the 4/7. That would be more complicated finding those products, where rather we can multiply by the least common denominator to get rid of the fractions. In this case, the least common denominator, well, we have denominators of 7 and 3. So that would be 7 times 3 is 21. So if we multiply both sides by 21, that will give us a 12 now times x plus 9, and then equals 14. We can then distribute the 12, so 12 times x is 12x, and 12 times 9 is 108. So then we have 12x plus 108 equals 14. We'll then subtract the 108 from both sides, leaving us with 12x equals -94. Then we'll divide both sides by 12 using those inverse operations, which gives us that x equals -7 and 10/12, and then we can simplify that 10/12 that has a factor of 2 to give us our final solution here of x equals -7 and 5/6. So now let's try this one. Here's an equation. We have 3/5 times the quantity of x plus 2 equals 9. So again, think when you have a fraction that it looks like we're about to distribute, we can multiply both sides of the equation by a least common denominator of both sides so that we don't have to do the multiplication with the fraction. In this equation, we have 5 in the denominator on the left and technically a denominator of 1 on the right. So 5 times 1 is going to make the least common denominator 5. So the first step is we're multiplying both sides by 5 of the equation. So that gives us now 3 times x plus 2 equals 45. We'll then now distribute the 3. So see how multiplying by 3 is going to be a lot easier than multiplying by 3/5. It's a lot more mental math. So 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 2 is 6, and then equals 45. So then we can subtract the 6 from both sides. So 3x equals 39, and dividing by 3 leads us to the solution of x equals 13. Let's look at one more example. We have solved the equation 1/8 times the quantity of x plus 1/2 equals 7/16. So again, we have a fraction on the outside of parentheses. We actually have a fraction inside the parentheses as well, and then it's equal to a fraction. So this problem just has fractions abound everywhere. But we have to be careful, because in this problem, when we're finding the least common denominator, you're only looking at the fractions outside of the parentheses and on the other side of the equal sign. So for example, in this problem, we're only looking at the denominator of 8 and 16. We're not including that 2 from the 1/2 because that's inside the parentheses. So we want to multiply the equation by the least common denominator, or the LCM, of 8 and 16, which in this case is 16. So we have that here, so you can see 1/8 times 16 is going to give us 2, and 7/16 times 16 is going to give us 7. So then we'll have 2 times the quantity of x plus 1/2 equals 7. We can then distribute the 2, so 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 1/2 is 1. So 2x plus 1 equals 7. We'll subtract 1 from both sides, giving us 2x equals 6. And then dividing by 2 finally gives us the solution of x equals 3.